Video we will discuss sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia, the topics which we will be covering is the pathogenesis, the consequences of sickle cell anemia, the factors which are responsible for the sickling, clinical features and the lab diagnosis of sickle cell anemia. Now going to the types of hemoglobin first before discussing sickle cell anemia. So you have HbA, which is the adult hemoglobin. It contains of two alpha chains, two beta chains. Then we have HbA2 and F, and then HbS hemoglobin, which is seen in sickle cell anemia. Over here what happens is there is two alpha chains and two beta chains, but the beta chain has a mutation. This is HbS's sickle cell hemoglobin. Now hemoglobinopathies. Hemoglobinopathies are further divided into qualitative hemoglobinopathies, quantitative hemoglobinopathies. Whenever there is structural abnormality in the hemoglobin, like in sickle cell anemia, this is the qualitative variety. Then you have quantitative, in which the globin chain synthesis decreases. So we will discuss sickle cell anemia, that is a type of qualitative abnormality of the hemoglobin. What is sickle syndrome? Now, sickle syndrome is an autosomal recessive disorder. Here there is HbS present, and this HbS is responsible for RBCs to get sickled. Now what happens is HbA, which was present in majority of the adults, is major hemoglobin which is seen in the adults is evenly dispersed in the RBCs. Okay, HbS is also evenly dispersed, but what happens whenever there is low oxygen tension? Okay, whenever the oxygen saturation it falls down, this HbS hemoglobin converts into rod-like structure, and because of rod-like structure, now the normal biconcave shape of the RBCs cannot be there. There is a sickling of the RBCs which is noted. So mostly the sickling happens when the patient is exposed to low oxygen tension. Now the types of sickle syndrome is, we can have sickle trait in which the patient will have less of symptoms, or mostly they can be asymptomatic also, and sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell trait is heterozygous. Now this is an autosomal recessive condition, so it doesn't give any clinical features in sickle cell trait. Homozygous patient only presents with the clinical features. Here both the genes are abnormal. Now going to sickle cell anemia. Now as we discussed, it is a homozygous state. Homozygous state of HbS in the red cells. Now here it has two genes which are abnormal. Both are abnormal, and the parents can be heterozygous. Okay, parents can be heterozygous. Both are giving their abnormal gene to the child. Now the child is homozygous, and the child will develop sickle cell anemia. Also you can see over here, this is the normal red cell and this is a sickle cell. Sickle cell have both pointed ends. Okay, it is like a sickle. Now whenever this passes through the blood vessel, this cells, they are rigid. Okay, they are not that flexible, they are rigid. Also they have increased adhesion molecules over them, because of which they can cause blockage of the vessels. Now, what is the pathogenesis of sickle cell anemia? Firstly, the mutation is a point type of mutation. So, if you have normal hemoglobin A in a person, okay, there is a beta chain present. Okay, there was an alpha chain present, there is a beta chain present. Now, over the beta chain, this beta chain is present over chromosome number 11. Now, here what happens is there is a point mutation. There is a change of single base. Now, the single base changes from GAG to GTG, that is that the adenine is replaced by thymidine. Okay, so this change take place. Now when the GNA change is there, it will change in the mRNA also, and there will be change in the amino acid also. Now amino acid first which was encoding was glutamic acid. Okay, there was glutamic acid earlier present in normal hemoglobin, and now this is replaced by valine. Okay, so valine comes. So this valine which comes, this creates the problem. So there is glutamic acid is replaced by valine at position 6. Okay, so this is the main pathology. So because of this, the hemoglobin which is formed is hemoglobin S. So what you have to remember, at beta globin chain is involved, that is present in chromosome number 11. At position 6, there is change of glutamic acid to valine, and this leads to hemoglobin S. Now, what are the consequences of sickling? What are main when the cell is developing from a circular shape into a sickle shape? What is the thing which will happen? One is vasoocclusion. We will discuss how vasoocclusion takes place, and one is hemolytic anemia. So, firstly, going to the vasoocclusion. Vasoocclusion, what happens is this is a biconcave RBC. Now, because of deoxygenation, okay, when the oxygen level falls down, I already told you what happens when the oxygen level falls down. The oxygen level falls down, so HbA, the hemoglobin was evenly dispersed, okay. But in case of sickle cell anemia, whenever there is a deoxygenation which takes place, it will lead to formation of sickle. Now this sickle shape is a rigid shape. Okay, so this will block the vessels. Also, there is increase in the adhesion molecules which is present on the RBCs. Now the RBCs, they will stick to each other. Okay, there is adhesion molecules which is increased. So this will lead to stickiness. The RBCs will stick to each other and therefore can cause vasoocclusion. So if you see over here, this is a vessel which is blocked by the sickle cells. This is due to increase in the adhesion molecules, and secondly it is due to increase in the rigidity of the RBCs. So there are two reasons behind the vasoocclusion. This is a consequence of sickle cell anemia. Okay, because of this consequence only, the patient will further present with the clinical features. Then second consequence was hemolytic anemia. If you remember, second consequence was hemolytic anemia. So the patient will have features of hemolysis also. Now why does hemolytic anemia takes place? Now HbS, there is formation. Now HbS polymerizes during deoxygenation. That is, it forms rod-like structure during the deoxygenation which leads to its sickle shape. Now routinely what happens is that this type of RBCs, they, whenever the oxygen saturations come back, they become normal biconcave. Then again when there is deoxygenation, they become sickle shape. Now this is repeated, okay, this is repeated sickling takes place. Now when this repeated sickling takes place, there is membrane damage. Membrane damage is there is loss of flexibility, and now these RBCs, they become permanent sickled, okay, from sickle which takes place and goes away, where again take place. Now permanent sickling take place. Now this permanent sickling, when it enters the spleen, okay, spleen recognizes it as a abnormal cell and leads to extravascular hemolysis in the spleen. So what type of hemolysis there? It is outside the vessels and it takes place in the RE system, that is the spleen. So this is an extravascular type of hemolysis in the spleen which takes place. Okay, so these are the two consequences. You have vasoocclusion, you have second is your hemolytic anemia. So according to that, the clinical features will be there in the patient. Now what are the factors which will develop tell you about this rate of sickling? So a normal in HbS also we discussed, the normal RBC is the biconcave only. During some stressful conditions, it will change into sickle shape. Now what are those conditions which will favor the sickling? First is the low oxygen tension, very important. Then is decrease in pH. Then you have HbS concentration, how much HbS is present. We will see each one. First going to the amount of HbS, okay, amount of HbS present. So if a patient has higher HbS, so higher polymerization will take place and therefore the patient will develop more sickling. Okay, so a homozygous patient will have more sickling than a heterozygous patient. Secondly, presence of HbA. Okay, this is a type of normal hemoglobin, or HbF also. These two hemoglobin, they reduce the sickling. There is reduction in the sickling. Okay, so HbA also decreases the tendency to sickle, HbF also decreases the sickling. Now this is why it is important, because in case of newborns, okay, newborns, they do not manifest the disease until 6 months, because newborns have HbF in them, so they will not manifest the disease in the first 6 months. Then second reason for sickling is the hemoglobin concentration. Now increase hemoglobin inside the RBCs. Okay, so if this is the RBC and it is getting dehydrated because of some reason, okay, there is dehydration. What will dehydration leads to? Water will go out, but Hb inside will be present. Okay, so this will lead to increase in MCHC, that is mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. So increased MCHC or hemoglobin inside the RBC concentration increases. This also leads to more sickling because more of HbS is present in the RBCs. Then decrease in pH also promotes the deoxygenation because it also leads to polymerization of the HbS. And lastly, low oxygen tension. This is the most important reason behind your sickle cell anemia, that deoxygenated HbS molecule, they polymerize, they form long rods or fibers, and this causes the typical sickle shape. So this is the reason behind that. So what are the factors? If you want to remember, what are the factors behind the sickling? One is, if there is HbF increases there, it will lead to sickle decrease. If HbA is increased, it will again lead to sickling decrease. If patient has good hydration, then also sickling will decrease. If patient had good oxygenation also, then also sickling will decrease. So these are the reasons to how to decrease the sickling in a patient. Now going to the clinical features in a patient. Now clinical feature will depend upon the reason. Okay, we discussed various reasons. Hemolytic anemia is there. So hemolytic anemia is there. There is jaundice. There is vaso-occlusion. So because of all of these, the clinical features will be there in a patient. So anemia will be type of a hemolytic anemia, which is extravascular. Jaundice, obviously when there is hemolytic anemia, there is a type of jaundice, there is increase in red count also. Vaso-occlusion, now due to vaso-occlusion what takes place, let's see. So in the bone, whenever there is in the bone the vessels are blocked, it will lead to avascular necrosis of the femoral head. It will lead to dactylitis. Dactylitis is in the fingers, there is inflammation of the joints, so the patient can come with swollen joints. Okay, so dactylitis of the hands and feet can be there. Then whenever hemolytic anemia is there, there is some type of extramedullary hematopoiesis, because of which the skull can also show features. Fish mouth vertebra is there, infection can take place, osteomyelitis can occur. So very importantly, what are the bony features which can be seen is the avascular necrosis, that is very important, of the femoral head mostly. And second is the dactylitis. Okay, these are two very important bone symptoms which take place in the patient. In the spleen, what happens is, because of first the spleen is involved, the whole mostly RBCs, they get poured into the spleen. So earlier stages you will see splenomegaly, but later on what will happen is, there is vaso-occlusion, there is ischemia which takes place of the spleen. The spleen also goes a fibrosis or atrophy, and this is known as autosplenectomy. Now this term you should know. What is autosplenectomy? Autosplenectomy takes place in the sickle cell anemia due to vaso-occlusion of the spleen. So it is very important, autosplenectomy word. So autosplenectomy takes place in the sickle cell anemia patient. Now spleen is responsible for some immunity. Because spleen is not there, there is increased susceptibility of the human being to encapsulated bacteria, especially such as H. influenzae, pneumococcus. So these are the features which will occur due to spleen. You have to remember the autosplenectomy. You have to remember increased susceptibility to encapsulated bacteria, that is H. influenzae or pneumococcus. Other symptoms can be seen in lung if it is blocked. It is acute chest syndrome can be there, brain vessels are blocked, stroke can be there. Aplastic crisis can also take place if the patient is simultaneously infected with parvovirus B19. Then prepism can take place if the penile vessels, they are blocked. So this is all the features because of vaso-occlusion. Okay, because the vessels of different organs are blocked. So these are the features because of that. Then one more interesting thing is seen in sickle cell anemia, that it is protective against falciparum. Okay, this is one good thing about sickle cell anemia, that it is protective against falciparum. So what happens is, whenever the falciparum infects the RBCs, it consumes some oxygen, because of which the HbS polymerizes, it forms sickle shape. Now in the sickle shape, the malarial parasite it goes into the spleen, and these RBCs are removed by the spleen. So therefore the parasite load decreases and the severe anemia of the falciparum is prevented. So this is important to note, that falciparum is a cannot survive in a sickle cell anemia patient. Lastly, going to the lab diagnosis. Now there are various tests in the lab diagnosis. First is the sickling test. Now this is a type of screening test. Okay, this is not a diagnostic test, it is a screening test. So what will happen is, we take a slide. Okay, we take a slide, we put the RBC, then we put sodium metabisulfite. Okay, sodium metabisulfite, this is a type of reducing agent. It will create a same situation of deoxygenation. Then we cover it, and when we seal it with the paraffin wax. Okay, so paraffin wax, it is sealed, and now we will see it after around 30 minutes, after 24 hours also it is seen for the sickling. So this is with this method, if it is positive, the sickle cell RBCs are seen, that is goes in the favor of sickle cell anemia. Otherwise negative, no sickling will be observed. This is a type of screening test, not a diagnostic test. Secondly, you can do PBF in a patient. So in a PBF of a patient, you can see numerous sickle shaped cells. Okay, so the cells will show marked anisopoikilocytosis and will contain some cells which are sickle shaped. Okay, some target cells, some NRBCs can also be seen in a sickle cell anemia patient. Then ESR is reduced in such a patient. Why ESR is reduced? ESR method is that it relies on stagnation of the RBCs in the tube. Okay, so a biconcave shape can rest over each other. However, a sickle cell anemia do not form proper rouleau. Okay, therefore the ESR is reduced in the case of sickle cell anemia. Then you can go, that is the diagnostic test is the hemoglobin electrophoresis or HPLC. These are the diagnostic test of hemoglobin of sickle cell anemia. It also differentiates between a sickle cell trait and sickle cell anemia. So what you will see in the sickle cell trait, if you see over here, you can see there is a one band, here there is a two band. So you have a band of HbA also, HbS also, because in a sickle cell trait patient is not totally abnormal. It will contain some amount of HbA because of one gene, and will contain some amount of HbS due to another gene. So two marks are seen, even two graphs are seen in the graph. Okay, but in a case of sickle cell anemia, only one line is seen of the HbS. So this is sickle, how to differentiate between sickle cell trait and sickle cell anemia. You will get a line for HbS. Okay, now this was all about sickle cell anemia. If you have understood this topic, so I will like you to attempt few MCQs, and you can write the answers in the comment box. These are two MCQs. This is the first one and a second one. Please attempt these and let me know your answers. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you.